Yeah, for sure. All right, Gabe, we are officially live. We are waiting for Mr. MDV. He'll be coming up, I'm sure, at some point. Um, this is the first time we've ever done anything like this. I'm really excited about it. We are going live through a new platform that we got, and we're just chopping it up like we do every single week, but this time doing it with the ability for people to ask comments or questions through YouTube and also through Facebook. So thank you for everyone who's joining us. Really appreciate you guys being on. Hopefully this is working as well as I was hoping for. Um, but Gabe, how's your morning been, man? What have you been up to this morning?
It's good, man. We're in a little bit of a cold front here in Texas, which isn't
Oh
crazy
boy.
cold. It's nothing crazy. It's just, man, a lot goes into having a bunch of animals you have to take care of when the weather isn't cooperating. Everything we do is super easy when weather's cooperating, but it's a little bit more stressful when you have all these little or not so little animals you got to take care of.
Yeah. I mean, so your morning was completely different from my morning. So you're out there in Texas with your ranch, keeping up with your animals, doing all different types of things. And here I am. I'm in California, and I was in the garage getting my back squats on. Same exact idea, though. You never know what's going to come at you. Caden ends up throwing up, so that was interesting.
Oh no.
And so he gets a pass from school, and I got a little break from my back squats. So I wanted to ask you though, while we're on the subject, from a workout perspective, what is your routine looking like right now in the mornings? Aside from obviously all the housekeeping
Yeah.
items with your house.
Yeah, so I try and work out every morning before kind of like starting I don't know, maybe last 3 quarters of my workday. I like to get a lot of work done super early in the morning. I go out, I do farm stuff. And then right after that, since I'm already kind of out there, I try and get my workout in. And then, I mean, this is going to sound like a plug, and obviously we're biased, but I just check the NCFIT app and poke around and honestly just cherry pick something that feels like what I want to do. Some days I want to breathe super hard and get my ass handed to me. Sometimes I want to like lift a little bit and get a little bit of a pump. And it's cool because training used to be getting beat up every single day. And now that training's really just about, adding value to my everyday life, I just do whatever I feel like it. And
Yeah.
that means that there are some movements that honestly I'm probably never going to do again. But that's fine.
Yeah, it's interesting with it when the way the training ebbs and flows. So for me, I back squatted this morning because uh I back squatted this morning because later on I'm gonna be going to jiu-jitsu. Oh, there is MDV. Welcome to the party, brother.
Oh, yeah, I'm here, man. Sorry, somebody didn't put the link into the calendar invite, so I had to search for it on Slack.
Oh, that was a little. All right. Well, we're talking about training. We're talking about morning routines. I was just sharing that when I look at my day, in the mornings, I oftentimes will ride the bike or I'll go for a walk with my daughter, whatnot. But today, I know that I'm going to jujitsu later. And so I wanted to make sure I got in some form of strength. So I did some basic, 5x5 back squats, and I actually supersetted that with the reverse hyper. It's something I've been incorporating in my training lately, and I really, really enjoy using the reverse hyper. I know MDV is going to be getting one soon, but for those of you who haven't tried a reverse hyper, it's a cool tool. Just make sure you know how to use it appropriately. Before we continue to dive into the episode, just want to remind you guys, if you're on YouTube or on Facebook, go ahead and shoot us some comments, shoot us some questions as we flow through our conversation. We'll make sure to jump into those. So, MDV, what was your morning training like today?
Oh, this morning got up at 4:45 a.m., which is the wake up time for the EOE 40 challenge for me, which
Woo!
yeah, it's I had posted something yesterday where I was like, oh, this is getting pretty easy. And then this morning I was like, I don't really want to get out of bed at 4:45, but I made it happen. After about 15 minutes of doing some stuff on Facebook, we actually had some stuff that came up that I wanted to answer really quickly. Got after a 21-minute running clock bike workout where 2 minutes of it were 65 to 70 RPM. So, going moderate, high, and then 1 minute of just moving the legs, but staying on the bike for all 21 minutes. And then followed that up with a 15-minute sauna at 200 degrees. And then had another podcast right before this, and now this podcast.
Talk me through the sauna because you're using infrared, right?
No.
No,
I'm
you're
not
using the traditional sauna.
Yeah, traditional coil and stone. And people kind of fall into, two camps here. They have the infrared lovers and they have the traditional coil and stone lovers. They both have benefits and they both have advantages and disadvantages. I think overall for me, I really just love the experience of the coil and stone sauna. It gets hotter. It heats the air first as opposed to heating your body first. I like that traditional feel. I like pouring the water over the coals. I like feeling that really intense heat. That for me is very, very enjoyable. It's cathartic. I feel very relaxed. So, personal preference for me is the coil and stone. The infrared heater heats the body first through the infrared rays and then heats the air after that. It doesn't get as hot in the infrared sauna as fast, and you feel it a little differently. It kind of sneaks up on you slowly, like you're just sweating in little beads. Then all of a sudden you're kind of like sweating more and more and more. You can definitely have more staying time in the infrared sauna. The traditional sauna right away, if you walk in, it's 200 degrees. You're like, woo, it's hot.
Yeah. Selin says infrared sauna all the way, basically, is what I'm seeing. And I think you did a great job describing the two of them, MDV. I've tried both. In particular, like the infrared, I was sent an infrared, and the only way I really felt like I was getting any type of like real like sweat, like old school sweat, was if I put a bike in there. So I would put a bike in there and I would go on long rides. But to your point, it just never got super hot. Whereas the coil, the traditional sauna, especially when you pour the water of the stones, and it's like, shh, and it's a different type of feeling. So I'm looking forward to getting a sauna again.
You got to go ice first.
Oh my
always.
God.
Ice first. Oh, hey, bang for your buck, man. It's $600 all in. You got full setup for ice plunges every single day, man.
Now you converted your reach in freezer, right?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. They have these really fancy like cold plunges, but essentially they do exactly the same thing. Because what I got for mine is I even got an ozonator, which helps keeps the water pretty clean. I could put a water filter in there too, but honestly, I just like once a month go in and like clean all the water out and put fresh water in. And honestly, it doesn't get like anything at all. But I'm telling you, man, ice bath.
Selling again with the comment. We just got an ice bath set up too. Love that stuff. Yeah. So I love that shit, actually, he said. And so, yeah, look, if you guys are joining in, hit us with your comments. But yeah, Gabe. So, I got after some squats and some other stuff. MDV got after his. You are running after animals this morning. I particularly like the wake up time because of the EOE 40. It's been really valuable to me. I actually talked to Sal Frizzo this morning, MDV, and yeah, I'm finding that morning time super rewarding to start the day. But what's on the agenda for today, Gabe? What did you? I know you had something to talk about.
I'd shared some stuff with you guys that I'm curious to hear your opinions about. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the Dave Castro news for the past 2 weeks on the podcast. Seems like that's kind of just like fizzled out.
No.
Or maybe it hasn't.
I don't think it has fizzled out, man. I think that
I haven't seen anything.
Well, I thought it fizzled a little bit too.
Well, it definitely fizzled a little bit. But let's spill the tea just a little bit here because I just got done talking about this on another show. There was an article that was posted on the Morning Chalk Up that revealed that I don't know if it was 1 year or over multiple years.
The E. coli.
Yeah, Madison health officials had advised CrossFit Games staff that E. coli levels were higher than normal acceptable levels to swim in. Like it was elevated to the point where it might cause illness or sickness, and that the CrossFit team was informed of this and then went about with the events anyway in this lake, and that Morning Chalk Up is kind of publicizing this right now. And, if you put your tinfoil hat on for a second.
I was going to say,
yeah,
we're going tinfoil hat on for a second.
Maybe you're saying that this is a smear job against Dave. I don't think that it is. I kind of think that Morning Chalk Up is in the business of selling clicks and selling subscriptions. So like any sort of news story that has noteworthiness in terms of like, oh, shock value, they're definitely going to push it to the front. This is one of those things, but it's also a serious issue. Like you're taking the athletes and putting them into a potentially dangerous situation, regardless of whether or not like, hey, the risk of getting sick from E. coli poisoning and really getting fucked up is relatively low. I still think that that's something that, kind of shows people's cards a little bit behind the scenes about like, what were they concerned about? They were way more concerned about just the event going on as planned without hitch and not necessarily changing up or going to a different body of water or going to a pool when they found out this information. But ultimately,
you remember people getting sick, right, MDV? I mean, I remember being at the games and some people would bow out, right?
That definitely was referenced in the article. I mean, I remember there was a couple of athletes who talked about taking activated charcoal before going into the water, making sure that they got their protection before that. But E. coli is really no joke either. You can get really sick from it. You get the runs, you can start throwing up, but you can also get pretty deadly ill from this stuff. And I think that it's definitely newsworthy. I also think that it's not just a bad look for the CrossFit Games staff, but you have the CrossFit brand name attached to the CrossFit Games. You can't decouple those things. So it's a bad look for CrossFit as a whole as well. But those are kind of my thoughts on the news.
So I see this from a different side in terms of, I was reading a couple of the comments, and, coming from a pretty extensive triathlon history where I did races where we swam in the Potomac in DC, the Hudson River,
dude,
in New York City.
Oh.
There are events that go on in water that is probably in much worse condition than that. And I'm not saying that it isn't a big deal. What I'm saying, and what a couple of the comments on the post pointed out, was that it's fresh water in the summer months. Like, if you test that stuff, there isn't any body of water that you're going to go out there that's, clean or, at a point where it's perfectly safe. Now, what I think could be happening here, and again, this is based off no information, just kind of me assuming, is I think that the city, Madison, protects itself by saying, hey guys, this is elevated. We're doing our part in letting you know that this is the case. And then, kind of putting the responsibility on the CrossFit Games team to then make whatever decision. I think it's being blown up to be a bigger deal than it really is. I think it's one of those things where if you're going to be doing open water in the summer, in fresh water, you need to know, I knew this going into these swims all the time. You have to be really careful about taking in water. That water is not clean. And ideally you shouldn't be taking some of that stuff in. Now, I think an added level of this is, CrossFit athletes aren't swimmers. They're going in there and they're coming in with, I think, a different level of experience of being comfortable enough where maybe they're not taking that stuff in. So that's another just kind of consideration to think about it. But I'm just coming at this where I know that there are a lot of races that are, sanctioned by USA Triathlon and, seem to have to go through the checks and balances that you would want to go through for it to be a safe event, that I'm assuming is in as bad of shape, if not, worse shape than, this lake in Madison in the summer.
Hey, Gabe, I got a question for you. So
the Potomac is gross. Just FYI. The Potomac was the grossest body of water I've ever been in.
But, CrossFit athletes are starting to get more and more advanced, obviously, because you've been seeing swimming in there for quite a while. But my question is, from a triathlete, you trained a lot more than most people who because you specialize in run, bike, swim. I mean, you just tell yourself hey, try not to swallow any water in this workout. Is there anything specific you do different, or you just do what you do? I don't really want to swallow water in general, but you know what I mean?
I don't think there's anything specific you do. I just know that, the more comfortable you are in the water, the less that's just going to happen. If breathing while you swim is second nature to you, you're just not going to take in water like someone that's going into the pool or the water and is a little bit tense. This isn't their natural, place to compete. It's going to happen a lot more.
So that
I'd be
interested
to find out whether or not they informed the athletes of the information and gave them the opportunity to protect themselves with whatever you would take prior to this, or just be knowledgeable, be like, hey, listen, I can't be swallowing large amounts of this water because of what's going on.
I think they did, though, MDV. I think they did bring this up.
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure they did. I mean, obviously, Morning Chalk Up is trying to, create stories. I get it. I don't know if it directly affects, how Dave leaving, but I will tell you, when it comes to the CrossFit Games, I was actually talking to a friend of mine this morning, and he was saying, dude, what is up with CrossFit? What's going on? And I was trying to explain to him that with Dave leaving, it's very emotional for a lot of people. I mean, you see those emotions on the open announcements. People are like, hey, sign up the open. And the first, whatever comments are bring TDC back, whatever. It's just I think they're still, I don't know how much longer they're going to hold on to that. We'll see if it impacts the open numbers. I'm really curious how many people are going to sign up for that. We'll find out.
Yeah, super interesting. But yeah, I mean, I definitely had noticed that there was at least a little bit less buzz around the Castro stuff. But one thing that I saw on social media that I'm super curious your guys' take. And Jay, I know that you've, spoken to, what's his first name? I know his last name's
Hormozy.
Alex Hormozy on the phone. So I know you have some relationship with him, but I thought it was, or at least it raised a lot of eyebrows in the space that he sold 66% of his two companies. So he has Gym Launch, which is a marketing consulting company, very well known for, pre-COVID doing a lot of business with different types of gyms on this kind of like 6-week challenge model where they ask for several $1,000s up front. And in exchange, they kind of set you up with a marketing and paid ad campaign that pushes this 6-week challenge to get a lot of people in the door. Now, very mixed reviews on the efficacy of this stuff. Kind of the pro being that, yes, you're getting a lot of people in the door. The con being that, these very discounted challenges get a lot of people in the door, but are they staying? And what kind of impact is that having on the other members that you have there? Now, I don't really have an opinion for and against, and we have no firsthand knowledge on using the service, but I do know that it's a company that's obviously done very well because 66% sold for $46 million, which is what Alex actually, shared on his social media. I thought it was interesting. Jason, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I think it's super interesting. I was actually texting with him yesterday or messaging back and forth with him, and I'm stoked for him. I'm excited to see. He is a straight businessman. He is, if I'm not mistaken, actually, I think he committed to donating all of his money to charity. I need to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that him and his wife, I believe, came together and they have multiple successful businesses. But if I'm not mistaken, they want to donate everything, which I thought was unique. But he definitely exemplifies someone who went out there with the message and was relentless with that message. And he didn't care what anybody thought, right? He could have these haters who say, hey, you bring in a bunch of leads and they're not retaining. But at the end of the day, I think, he sleeps well at night knowing that he added value for at least a certain percentage of those people. And ultimately, he created a successful business that got bought out. So I think that is just one story from like the functional training CrossFit market. RX Bar is another great story, right? Those are cool to see. Noble, recent evaluation, I'm not mistaken, about $1 billion. That's great for the industry to continue to evolve like that. So I'm stoked for him and I can't wait to learn more about what happened.
I think that one thing that it got me thinking about, and another thing that I saw recently, and I want to give, O2 and Dave Kalina, friends of NCFIT, a shout out, is, kind of different ways that these companies try to get to the next level with fundraising. Like there's the private equity route. There's what O2 is doing, which is a grassroots crowdfunding through Seed Invest, which is a platform that actually allows you to not have to be like a professional investor, but you can actually privately buy shares from these companies. And that's what O2 is doing. They're actually reaching out to their community. And what Dave has said in emails that have gone out, which I've been receiving, is this idea that, they don't feel that going the private equity route, where the argument's always that then private equity kind of starts to steer the ship in a way that maybe is counter to what got the company to where it is in the first place. So going the crowdfunding route just allows them to have that grassroots, growth. So just curious to hear your guys' thoughts on both of those approaches and kind of where you think the fitness space might be going.
I don't know, MDV, what you got, man?
I'm kind of like an outsider in this conversation. This one doesn't really pique my interest all too much as you guys are into it.
I'm very interested.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool to hear about. I think that there's been some really interesting companies that have spawned out of the CrossFit functional training space. Ultimately, I kind of am interested in what we're fucking doing. I want to grow our business, man. Like I watch these stories and I get really fired up for people. And it's cool to know Noble got a $1 billion valuation. That's great for those guys. I'm super interested in growing what we're doing at NCFIT and really putting our foot to the floor with 2022. I hate to, I don't really have an opinion here or there. I'll let you guys.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head though. Like for me, I think for Gabe, at least for me, I try and research these different things just to see if there's anything that we could take away for our business. But I think you're nailing it on the head, MDV. I think you could learn a lot, right? You have O2 going this crowdfunding way. You had CrossFit that went more private equity. and learning from those and seeing the growth of different companies and how they do it is something I particularly enjoy. I like researching that because I think we could take it into NCFIT and see how we could grow. That all being said, pivoting to something that I know MDV is fired up about, Brady is asking, love the podcast. What are some of y'all's top 3 favorite workouts? Could be CrossFit, running, Oli, bodybuilding, etc. That's a tough question to answer, but I guess we'll pivot back to MDV because I know you got some thoughts on this one.
Well, I didn't want to necessarily change subjects, but I didn't also have
it's all good.
No, I didn't really have a super strong opinion on like O2 or the crowdfunding or what Gym Launch did. What I do have a really strong opinion on, or what I think is really interesting in terms of those kinds of different growth phases of companies, is like you are seeing a cultural shift in CrossFit in terms of what leadership is going out there and doing and saying. Previously you had a very, very grassroots based company. They told it like they wanted to tell it. They went out there and they had their party line and they didn't give a fuck about what anybody else thought in terms of what they were going to do or what they were going to say. And they had a very brash attitude. They didn't really play nice in the sandbox with a lot of people. And, for better or worse.
Yeah, they sued Gatorade, I think, for $3 million. They spent $3 million suing Gatorade because Gatorade said thirst your quench or something like really random. They spent a ton of money on. Anyways.
They also sued their partner in Reebok, and whether or not like they had the standing to do so. They definitely, had a case for why they did that. But they, when you're suing your own partner in the CrossFit game, something might be up there. So, in terms of like where CrossFit was with the leadership of Glassman and Castro and the old guard to where it is going now that you have Eric Rosa and you have all these investors and you have equity money involved and, maybe there's an IPO down the road or something along those lines. I think it's really interesting to see the cultural shift because I don't know whether or not all of the community is necessarily down for how the culture is being shifted from a leadership perspective in CrossFit, right? And, maybe that's part of the, the gig when you're taking on equity money is now you have to serve your equity investors. You have to literally have those people's best interests involved in mind, and maybe not necessarily your constituents as much.
Yeah.
I think that's the super interesting part, right? Is like the argument is always like, can you go the private equity route without like the mission of the brand being diluted into an ROI for the people that are now involved? Like CrossFit has gotten a lot of grief for, one example is the Monster sponsorship at the games, right? Like you just said, like they went from suing Gatorade and fighting Big Soda to having all the athletes have, promote Monster, which is owned primarily by Coca-Cola, right? There's clearly a shift there on, making the deals because the deals make sense versus having this like very firm stance on certain things. Now, obviously there's a side of a company has to do what it has to do to continue to grow because that's what allows it to touch more people. And you can make the argument that they're just making the best deal so that they can get, their brand of fitness to more people, which ultimately is a positive. But it is very interesting to see the changes, Dave Castro being another example of, kind of when new leadership kind of takes into account. So I think that's the interesting takeaway there is, can this more grassroots approach be something that allows companies to grow while still keeping a firmer grasp on the steering wheel per se?
Well, I think Alberto, I talk to him pretty often online. Have you ever thought about increasing the value of NCFIT with percentages for sale? I think what he's referring to is kind of like this crowdfunding concept. And I think that this is like a newer thing. And it's just, I think to note on that, I think never say never is the concept would be, hey, if it seems like the right fit for our trajectory and our mission where we're going, absolutely we'd consider it. Why not?
NFTs, baby.
NFT, dude, I got a great
NFT, NCFTs, I should say.
Dude, I have such a great idea for an NFT. I got to show you guys later. But anyways, but back to Albert.
Bought my first 2 NFTs recently.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to hear about it. But
We'll talk about
just
it
to
later.
close the loop on this one, I think this is a more of a modern day thing, right? Like back in the day, there was there was stock and there was private equity and there was this, there's that. Nowadays, right, you have the ability to crowdfund or do different types of things because of the internet, because of these different platforms. And I think we're only going to see more and more of this in the future. And so I'm excited to watch how that goes. And O2 is an example of that. NFTs, Alberto says, okay, because you brought it up, MDV, what NFTs did you buy and and why did you buy them?
So I have a buddy who owns a CrossFit gym. His name is Zathan Simpson, and Zathan is a fantastic dude. He's a young guy. He's a super hard worker, great athlete. And he is a little bit younger than me. And he was really, really hot on the NFT trend. Like as soon as it hit, he was like, I'm going to go all into this. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to start mining Ethereum. He like set up his, I don't know if it's in his basement. He's got like 10,000 master computers down there running at all hours of the day and the night, mining Ethereum, whatever the fuck that means. But then he also, yeah. I think of like mining Ethereum. I think of literally something like an axe and like chopping away, but I think it's just computers running math problems, which is kind of scary. Anyway, so he got into like thinking about NFTs, non-fungible tokens.
Yeah.
And he was really early into Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is probably the bluest of blue chip NFTs out there. He also was, super early on the Gary V stuff, which I know Gabe was early on, the V Friends. And he was just, talking to me, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about what's this whole world about. Is it all nonsense or is it some nonsense? Or are there going to be more blue chip type of NFTs out there, or is the bottom going to completely fall out of everything? And, he gave me a really good education. We looked at a couple of projects, and he was showing me the hallmarks of like what a legitimate project will look like and what, the nonsense fake projects might look like. And there's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of trash. But, we kind of landed on 2 projects that, looked really cool and enticing to me, that I really enjoyed the artwork, and then also had a floor price that was steadily increasing and definitely had plans, and, reading their Discord and all stuff like this, had plans to become a bigger type of thing than just, creating some small artwork and hoping that it catches fire. So that's how I landed on it. I put a very modest amount of money towards it, and we'll see what happens.
Dude,
I love it.
I was trying to share my screen, but I'm going to share it next time. I have this picture of a signed picture of all the champions from the CrossFit Games. It's Frazier, Ben Smith, Froning, Holmberg, Nico, and myself signed.
Your audio got a little funky. I don't know if anybody else.
All right. Yeah. No, it definitely did.
Yeah.
Is it back?
He tried to share his screen and ruined his audio. That's classic. Classic.
Oh man.
It's back now.
Oh, is it back now?
Yeah, back, baby.
Dude, we're trying this new platform. So I have a cool picture, right, of all the past champions with exception of OPT from 07, right? And then obviously Justin from this last year. But it's Frazier, Smith, Froning, Holmberg, Miko, and myself, and all signed. I thought that could be a cool NFT in the future. Anyways, NFTs are really interesting to me because it's just worth, when we've talked about this before, it's just worth exploring. And I thought that could be a cool one for the first one that we try and do.
I saw a story, just a random, listen, I don't know everything about this world. I probably know 1% of it, but I saw a story of a gentleman. He was a young Indian man, and he had taken a selfie of himself every single day for 365 days and then put like some sort of background behind it. And then he turned those into NFTs. And then somehow, somewhere, like it just like got groundswell and people started buying these things.
Sent that to me.
Yeah. He made $1 million. He sold 365 pictures of himself, essentially somewhere upwards of like $1 million. It's kind of crazy, but that's the world that we're in right now, man.
Hey,
this is the metaverse. We're in the metaverse.
We're in the metaverse. Hey, before I love NFTs. I do want to make sure we get to Brady's question before this thing's out and Selin also. You want to pop over to Brady's? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll kick off. So these are my top 3 favorite workouts. I have a lot of favorite workouts, but just thinking off the top of my head, 3. Number 1 would be any sort of triplet EMOM that involves 3 different types of movements: a weightlifting movement, a body weight movement, and a monostructural movement. And you can mix and match these suckers into any way, shape, or form, 21 minutes, 30 minutes, wherever you want to get to, as long as you have that triple format in there. That for me is my favorite kind of EMOM: weightlifting, body weight, and then also monostructural. I also really like the workout Chelsea, which is another 30-minute EMOM in the CrossFit space, which is essentially one round of Cindy on the minute for 30 minutes. And if you try to do that workout as fast as humanly possible with finishing all the rounds like sub 30 seconds, kipping and moving really fast on the squats, super challenging. But also if you try to do that workout strict pull-ups, really perfect push-ups, it's very, very challenging as well. My third favorite style workout would be a bodybuilding style workout, which is like a full body impact for the day. I like to start off with some sort of big lift. I've been working a lot of heavy box squats lately. So that would be like how I would kick it off. And then I would go with some chest, some arms, maybe a little bit of additional legs in there, some shoulders, and kind of wrap it all up with a little bit of midline stuff at the end. A full body bodybuilding day for me. Nothing better.
Woo. MDV, you must have been having some last port coffee. Go ahead, Gabe.
So, there's just so many in terms of CrossFit functional fitness workouts. There's so many, but the one that I always remember, and I think this is because we used to it repeated in the open a couple times, but we also used to do it as like a benchmark test a lot back home. It was, I don't remember the actual number of the workout, but it was the one that was, I think, a 17-minute AMRAP, and it was the 60 cal row, 50 toes to bar, 40 wall balls, 30 power cleans, 20 muscle ups. And then
you get back on the row, right?
You went back on the row.
Yes. Yeah.
Dude, that workout, there's nowhere to hide. It has a little bit of everything. It's engine stuff, which I tend to enjoy. And I love the fact that it has the muscle ups at the end when you're like a complete zombie. So that's one of the workouts that definitely stands out. Another one of my favorite workouts, and I actually did this a lot when I was, really into running and triathlons. Jason, you'll appreciate this, is 10-800s on the track.
Woo!
The 10-800s on the track with equal time run to rest ratio is...
I'm throwing up in my mouth as you're saying.
One of the most brutal workouts you can ever do, but one of them, you're done with that workout and I am a tougher, better human after this, especially if you're able to keep a really, really consistent race pace, which, at the time I remember I would try and do it at your mile pace is what your goal would be. So half a mile at a mile pace, you rest the same amount of time you work, and you're trying to do that 10 times over.
That's like an hour. That's an hour long workout, right? 30 minutes of running, 3 minutes per 200. If you're going fast. So it's probably more than an hour. And you're probably
there's an old school video
30 minutes after that.
Yeah, there's a video of Jason doing that.
Yeah, CrossFit came out and filmed that one. And so to your point, MDV, the goal was to go sub 3 minutes every round for an 800 for 10 rounds with a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. And oh boy, that was a tough day on the track, man. The 800 is a tough duration, right? It's just long enough where it sucks and you could just go fast enough.
I remember when MDV asked us what the worst time domain is to test on the assault bike. And it's that 3 minute, that 2 to 3 minute time domain is short enough that you have to pedal to the metal, but just long enough that you kind of have to pace, but you can't really pace. So it's tough. Those are the two that stand out. A third favorite workout is it's always nice to get a chest and arm pump. On the days when you just want to feel good, going out there and just bench pull-up superset, whatever that looks like. It could be, what's the CrossFit benchmark workout? That's bench and pull-ups for max reps. Linda. Could be that, or just literally bodybuilding 4 rounds of tempo, bench and tempo.
Bench and pull-ups. Linda is the 3 bars of death, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Linda is bench, deadlift, clean, and you were thinking of a pull-up bench workout.
It's the one that's 5 rounds,
max reps,
body
weight. Yeah.
Max body weight bench, straight into max pull-ups, 3 minutes rest.
Yeah, that's a tough one too. I love everything you guys just said. In addition to just odd object stuff I've gotten into lately, You know, I got sandbags and D-balls and just stuff like that, a little bit more carry over to jiu-jitsu and just switching it up. You know, I've trained so much for so long that, you know, this morning I did basic back squats and I love it. And I normally do like 20 minutes of, you know, simple fasted cardio. I love doing those type of things at moderate effort. It's just a nice way to kind of get the mind clear and feel good. But if I have an opportunity to, I'll run in there. I'll grab a 100-pound D-ball. I'll do over the shoulder and combine that with like some burpees. And those things always just tax the hell out of me. So I'm a huge fan of that type of stuff, along with obviously EMOMs and AMRAPs and things of that nature. So I like all that stuff for sure.
What's your favorite named workout of all time? Like if you had a favorite named girl workout of the classics, which would your favorite be?
Well, my least favorite is Eva. Right. If I had to say a least favorite,
that's the 5 rounds, 400-meter run, heavy kettlebell swing, and pull up, I think.
Yeah, that one's my least favorite. I think, oh man, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've done so many of them so many times. I don't have one that sticks out as like something I really, oh, Jackie. Yeah. Hell yeah, Jackie. What am I talking about? Jackie's my favorite. That's a good one for me. Obviously it's in my wheelhouse, so I like it. But you know, all these workouts, you know, the thing about that I've learned over the years is like, I just want to get my body moving. I think that's really important. You know, getting the kids, especially like watching how the kids train, just having them move their bodies has been really, really important. And I think you're just winning if you just make it into the garage, make it into the gym, whatever you have going on. So for anybody listening, you know, I think that's the key is just walk in the door and get your body moving. And then after that, I evaluate how I feel. And then I either follow the NCFIT app. Well, I basically just follow the NCFIT app, but I don't pick the workout until after I'm done warming up, or I go take a class. And the reason why I do that is I want to get my mind right. So sometimes I feel beat up. I've had a couple hard days of training lately, and I went in the garage this morning to back squat. But before I did that, I just started warming up, and then I determined, you know, how heavy and what I want to do. And I think that's a good key for anybody who's kind of feeling a little bit beat up. Get your body moving, and then evaluate how you feel.
Yeah, I usually try and like think about and decide what my training is going to be the night before, but Bloom, my wife, makes fun of me all the time because that's always plan A, but many times we go to plan B. So it ends up being that I decide after the workout, but usually I go into the gym with an intention of this is what my training is going to be. And more times than not, that is not what it ends up being.
Dude, I did one yesterday. For those of you guys who want to try it, it incorporated the, you know, the pull up, the box jump over, and the bike. And it just, dude, when you do those 6 rounds, by the way, I sent you my scores for that one workout the other day, Gabe. I don't know if you beat me yet, but you're probably not.
I haven't done it yet.
We talked so much crap back and forth, but hey, what else did you want to cover today, Gabe?
Well, the other really interesting thing pertaining to gym owners specifically, and our friend Stu over at WTF Gym Talk, you know, said this in much more colorful language, but you know, I'll keep it to more of our voice here. Essentially, the thought that if you are a gym owner and you are maxing out your credit card, or even if you're not maxing out the business credit card, but you are spending the $1,000, you know, hotel for 3 nights and the $500 plane ticket to go to an event like Wadapalooza in Miami, and you're trying to tell yourself that you're doing it because you might have a master's athlete that's performing, you have to be there to coach them. But meantime, back home at your business, you're complaining that, you know, your business isn't where you want to be. Is that incredibly irresponsible? Obviously, Stu said that, yes, it's incredibly irresponsible. Obviously, we know that it is something that gym owners do, right? Like these events are really popular and big get-togethers, and we've been to them, and there's everyone that has the gym owner lanyard. Like it's gym owner galore. It's a big reason that we've gone to these events in the past. Is that the best use of a gym owner's money and time? And should they be called out the way that Stu did?
So here, my personal opinion on this is that I think Stu has a valid point. I think if you are running a business that's struggling and then you're trying to sell yourself a bag of goods that's saying, I'm going to go to Miami on the business credit card, I'm going to spend all this money on hotels, food, and essentially just have a glorified vacation weekend where you're walking around, you know, you got your t-shirt tucked into your shorts and your fist bumping everybody, and you're going over and you're trying the O2 drinks and you're grabbing the paleo bars and whatever, and you're doing the pull-up challenge. Like, listen, I've been there. I've been there usually for like a company that's flying me there to work at the event. Like I wouldn't necessarily spend my own money to go to these events. I think I do think that there's a level of irresponsibility. If it's the business's money that you're spending and the business is struggling and there's no solid business case for why you would have to be there, I do think you have to take a hard look in the mirror and be like, yeah, probably kind of just snuck one past the goalie in terms of me going to this event and just having like a little of a boys' weekend or a girls' weekend or whatever. But also on the other side of the equation here, what I think Stu might miss, and where I would never tell anybody that they can't do this, is like, I don't give a fuck what you do with your personal money. You know, if it's your personal money that you're spending and you're going there and you're gonna say, yeah, I want to take this $2,000 and put it towards this weekend where I want to go and have a good time. As long as you're not hurting anybody overtly, like you're not paying that money to have somebody hurt, like I don't care what you do with that money. It's your personal responsibility to evaluate your personal finances and make the decision about whether or not you think you're responsible enough, or do you have other obligations that you could be putting that against to go to Miami for Wadapalooza. It's like going to the casino and like you see somebody, you go like, you shouldn't be here spending your money. Like, who the fuck? You can't say that to somebody. Even if you think it in your head that they shouldn't be here spending their rent money, that's not your decision to make. Like, it's their decision to make. But when it's the business's money, I do think there's a different level of like, yeah, I can have a stronger opinion on that.
Well, I think what Stu is getting at, and this is just my take on it. So I agree with both sides, right? Like, hey, if it's your personal money, like you do you. I think where it becomes a little bit different is when an owner convinces themselves that there's a business case for it, right? And I think that they need to take a hard look in the mirror and say, hey, is there really a business case for this? Because ultimately, and I've been in this situation hundreds of times, right? I'll look at something and I'll be like, hey, I need to go here. And I look at the expense, let's just say for the sake of argument, it's $5,000. Say, hey, you know what? I think there's a business case. But in the back of my mind, I actually don't think there is. Maybe there's a little bit, but I just want to go do it personally. And I think that you need to separate your personal desires from the business needs and make sure that they align. And so for us, for example, I didn't go to Wadapalooza this year. I didn't think that it aligned with our business needs. And so we weren't going to go out there and set up a booth and spend the money. And we did other things instead, like being on the Savant podcast and incorporate that way. That was a decision that I made to say objectively, take out like all the broing out and the things that I love to be there. I love connecting with people, but ultimately, is there a return for the business? And if there isn't, maybe I'm better off just staying here, focusing on the business at hand instead of, trying to get coaches to cover my classes and whatnot. And so I think every owner who went to any event, that's also the games, right? Needs to do that evaluation. Are you then also sending mixed signals to your team? We're saying, hey, we need to make sure that we're streamlined. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to keep our expenses low. And then you're at the games where they know it's expensive. They know that you're gone for multiple days and that they have to cover your classes. So it's just something I think each owner needs to evaluate and look themselves hard in the mirror and see if that's the right decision for them.
But I also think like, hey, if you're a gym owner and you want to take your personal finances and you want to tell your team, hey, listen, I am going away for vacation. I'm going to the games for vacation. This is like, that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to do it responsibly and get my classes covered and make sure that blah, blah, blah is going on. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that like the business case thing, selling your staff a bag of goods where it's like, I'm going to go to the games because it's like the affiliate owner thing to do. And I'm going to network and meet all these people. And, it's definitely like going to produce results for our business. It's probably not, homie. Like it's definitely not producing results for your business, but I don't care what people do with their personal money, to be honest.
Yeah, they should go out there and go have fun, right? As long as they frame it in their mind that way. And I've also had it the opposite way where I've tried to frame something in my mind as a business expense, right, in my head. But then when I go out there, I actually have less fun because I feel guilty that I'm not driving a return for the business, when what I should have done is just reframe it as, hey, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to have a great time. It's going to be a personal thing. I'm going to enjoy myself. And then I would have just de-stressed myself. But instead, when I think about it as a business expense, I'm walking around trying to think about how can I add value, blah, blah. But in the reality is I should have gone out there and just try to enjoy myself in the first place. So I've had both sides of that as well.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. Just being honest to, is it vacation? Or are you going out there and not trying to like mask it with this networking, right? Got to go out there and network. man.
Networking. Hey, by the way, you know, if you guys do have a couple questions before we sign off, make sure you guys put those in the comment section. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. It's a new background. It's all new for us, right? And we're also going to produce this on our podcast. But this is a cool thing that we're trying out, and I want to do this on a regular basis in the sense of like just engage and answer the questions you guys might have, and try and be more personal. You know, we're in the trenches on a day-to-day basis. We're living it. I mean, currently we're doing the EOE 40 challenge. I've been eating nothing but meat and a little bit of fruit now for 11 days. I gotta tell you, I mean, I feel good. I've been tempted for sure, and it's been very difficult, but I feel good.
You were low. You were like 2 days ago. You were on the ledge.
I was. Dude, I'm back.
You were low power mode 2 days ago, and now you're back.
Dude, you know what happened? I think like 8 days in, I just hit this lull, and I think what it was, I didn't get ahead of the food, right? So I just, dude, I had to get ahead of the food. I got too hungry too quick, and then I'm wearing this glucose monitor, and it starts messing with my head, which I'll talk about that later. But I think for me, getting ahead of the food has been really helpful. It's like this morning, I trained in the garage in my back squats. I then had 3 sunny side up or whatever eggs with some of that everything bagel sauce seasoning, and like 4 blackberries. That's what I've had so far today, and I am ready to run through a brick wall.
4 blackberries?
Maybe 5.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's not a lot of food, homeboy.
Hey! I'm just getting started. But one of the things I did want to say is that
I can't believe we've gone 45 minutes into this without hearing the 3 letters CGM. I'm surprised.
Oh yeah. But one thing that's been really interesting is, dude, the mindset shift a little bit of the getting up early, but also, I know it's going to sound weird, but I went to dinner for the first time, and my kids ordered like this French toast dessert, and it looked so damn good. I mean, it looked delicious, and I would normally shut that thing down with no like sense of remorse, but I didn't touch it. And also my wife, who's on keto right now, she didn't touch it. And so it was nice because we had kind of had that collaboration, which was cool. But at the moment, it really sucked for sure. But later on that night and the next day, like I felt good about myself. I felt good about that. Hey, I had the discipline that when I went out to eat with my in-laws and whatnot, I wasn't that guy, right? I just ordered a steak and I was good, but I had the discipline. So for those who are on the edge of trying different things, it was really difficult for me. And it's the first time I've ever like gone this long, but that discipline like gave me freedom, in the words of Jocko Willink.
There's something to this stuff. I know. Hey, I know, Gabe, you have probably something similar to say. Go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I want to make sure we at least acknowledge Selen's question here before we head out. But if you had something to say, go ahead. I just want to make sure we don't forget.
No, there's something to this stuff in terms of like the small wins that you can have during these types of challenges where you do overcome these micro adversities where it's like, is that the worst thing in the world that Jason's going to say no to the French toast dessert? No, it's going to be like, he's going to develop that capacity to make those decisions down the road when it gets harder. It's like a stepping stone. You know, he's going to say no here and he's going to build off the momentum. And I think where people get tripped up in these challenges, they start to create this wiggle room for themselves where it's like, oh, you know what? I just had a bite of the dessert. Oh. And then, you know, the bite of the dessert 2 or 3 days later, maybe a week later, turns into now it's like a half portion or whatever. And we're asking through this challenge for a sense of like rigidity against the rules that you set for yourself. And we're not asking that those continue on forever, but there is some really cool stuff that comes out of the fact that you will have to make some tough decisions. And then like Jason's saying, he's feeling better because of it. He had the big win.
Dude, Ashley made keto brownies and they're just sitting in the kitchen. And I'm just like, come on, Ash, like, what's up with this? Like, I walk by these every single day and I just want to have a crumb. That's it. Just give me a crumb, but I didn't take it. Hey, thank you, Quan, for your comment. Really appreciate it. Glad you were enjoying these conversations. Capra, Jay, are you timing your fruit around your workouts and seeing your levels before and after workouts? I am. So I'm playing with my glucose levels. I'm playing with eating fruit before, in particular, jiu-jitsu, and seeing if that additional glucose, like if any of that has any impact. I don't have any solid data as of right now, but yes, I'm definitely playing with that. To answer your question, Selin, I'm using one from Signos. I'm not sponsored or paid by them. It's just what I'm trying. All right, Gabe, you wanted to go back to this question, right? So Selin's wondering, Would love to know y'all's take on women athletes in the fitness industry and the increase of autoimmune hormonal imbalances, metabolic resistance among athletes. Wow, that's a heavy one. Gabe, you said you wanted to answer it. So what are your thoughts here? I
definitely wanted to acknowledge it. I think that it's a super in-depth question, and I know I'm out of my league to kind of give any sort of like, meaningful answer here. I think it's a good question though. And I do want to kind of like shamelessly plug my wife, Ariel Bloom, who you can, check out on Instagram, because this is like all she talks about. So definitely check her out and some of the content she puts out. But I wanted to make sure that we didn't ignore the question, but I mean, I think it's just a little bit out of our league to answer.
Yeah, and I think that's an important note, right? Like, hey, we look at a question, we could go back and do some basic, some research. I have some high level ideas, but I don't feel like I have enough information to even have a strong opinion on that right now. I mean, MDV, do you feel the same way or?
No, yeah, I mean, a question like this, it's an interesting question. I think that it needs a little bit more clarification in terms of like specific examples. Are we talking about, competitive CrossFit training? Are we talking about specific athletes? Are we talking about a study that was done? Are we talking about any sort of medical research that's kind of happening right now that's monitoring these things and seeing that there's trends over the last number of X years? It's a question that certainly has a lot of different ways that you can approach it. I would definitely need more information before like even positing an answer on it, and probably not the expert in terms of being the most educated in terms of any of these things, especially in regard to a topic that doesn't impact me directly. This is something that I have no personal experience with. So tough one.
Yeah. And, I think something that's important about this show and us talking, right, is that we try a lot of things. Like people ask me, why are you going carnivore? Why are you doing this? Because I want to try it. And then I want to be able to provide feedback. I've done a lot of different things in my life, and I want to share what's worked and what hasn't worked for us, including training the kids, which is something I really want to get into more and more and more. But in something like this, we can't really talk from previous experience because it's just not our lane. So we can go do some more research and come back to the table. I think that's important to note, right? Know what you know what you don't know. And that's one we just don't want to, dive into anymore. Before we sign off here, I just want to see, what's the big plans? I know that, Niners are playing this weekend, so I'm fired up about that. I'm the biggest fair weather fan in the entire world. I didn't watch a single game the entire season. Not one, not even a single one of anything. And then Niners get the playoffs, and I wear my Niners hat, and I'm rocking it hard.
So classic,
dude. But what are the big plans for the weekend? What's closing it up? And let's get this Thursday show wrapped up.
Very cool. I got some jujitsu that I'm going to try and do tomorrow morning, and then open mat on Saturday at my buddy's new gym. It's CrossFit Tigered here in the Pacific Northwest. Sam Hardy is an absolute savage. He's one of the best guys out there, one of the nicest guys that I've ever met, and a fantastic coach. And then there's a big UFC fight this Saturday night. You got Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gain for the heavyweight title, and also the flyweight title, I believe, is Moreno versus Figueiredo, pronouncing the name wrong, but 2 title fights this weekend.
Woo! Gabe, you keeping up on the farm?
Yeah, man. Not the biggest of plans. We're building a chicken coop this weekend. So a bunch of baby chicks that we got 30 baby chicks a couple months ago. They're like full grown chickens now. So they've outgrown their space. So we have to build a chicken coop for them. So that'll be a fun little DIY project with my dad and Bloom, turning 31 tomorrow. So there'll be some birthday festivities. But aside from that, that's it.
Here, just before we get off, I have to try this. Well, I'm not going to try it. Never mind. Here, everybody ready? Here it comes. Ready? There it is. Happy birthday, Gabe. Trying out these new banners. Well, hey.
For anybody who's just listening to this podcast, Jason just put like a ticker tape down at the bottom that says happy birthday.
Hey, trying out new things on the show. Want to, thank MDV, Gabe. I always love talking to you guys. Make sure you check them out on Instagram. MDV is basically he's crushing the IG game. Oftentimes without his shirt on, so you guys will get some ripped looks of this guy. Jacked. And just appreciate you guys checking in. We will definitely be doing this again, so stay tuned. And hope everybody has a great day. Thanks again.
That's right. Thank you, guys.